Looking for a new career? Welcome to Do HVAC Training Service Center in North Charleston. Enroll today in our comprehensive HVAC training hands-on field experience-based program, covering troubleshooting, maintenance, installation, and more on various HVAC systems and ductwork. We offer EPA and NAEP preparation and testing, along with various certifications. Enjoy payment options. Take advantage of their November specials. Achieve certification in under 5 months. Enroll now for your new journey of skill development and career advancement. Log on to DEWHVACTrainingSC.com to inquire.
Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
Hello, and welcome to Real Menopause Talk. My guest today is Jacqui Burge. Jacqui went from being in a band and touring with Nirvana in the 90s to the health and wellness industry, and she's all in. It's so refreshing to hear from a non-doctor, a non-medical perspective about what works for her with regard to sleep and digestion, especially as these are really common issues. Being a serial entrepreneur with her desk yogi business and move sanctuary, it's clear that when Jacqui finds a problem, she also finds a solution. Which brings us, at last, to a conversation about constipation and bowel movements. I'm particularly happy about this because, as you know, digestion can be thrown completely off track during perimenopause, and having consistent bowel movements is essential to good health. It eliminates toxins and excess hormones that we do not want to get stuck with. Enter XO Jacqui. And it's an all-female business to boot. Jacqui's philosophy is to be curious, not frustrated. And stay curious. Trial solutions on yourself, for yourself, and assess openly. We cover so much in this episode, from symptoms to rock and roll, from attitude to tennis, so I'll just let you dive straight in. Jacqui, lovely to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me today. Would you like to start by telling everybody a little bit about you, your background, where you grew up, where you live?
I grew up in Los Angeles. So I spent my childhood in LA, and then I went to the East Coast. I lived in Washington, D.C. and New York. And then I went to college in New York and was in a band. So I did a lot of music when I was younger, and it was pretty funny, because I laugh about it now. My daughter has a poster of my band on our tour. We went on tour with Nirvana and Sonic Youth like in eons ago when I was 20, so 35 years ago. And my daughter has the poster because now it's like retro.
Yes.
But,
wow. What's the name of your band?
It was called STP. It was like a Riot Girl, like power rock, all girl band. It was really fun. It was a fun time. But I always like to laugh because I feel like being in a punk band in the early 90s was like my gateway to health and wellness, because that is not, you normally don't live a healthy lifestyle like on the road with a bunch of musicians, lots of partying and lots of late, no sleeping, like all the things that are, decadent kind of lifestyle. And that decadence kind of like dropped me headfirst into, health and well-being. Right.
Amazing. Did you sing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sang and played guitar. Yeah.
How fabulous.
Yeah.
But yes, you are obviously very right. Not the healthiest of lifestyles to begin with. Fun.
I mean, now it's very different. I have a good friend who's in the band Ministry, and I think life on the road is very different now. People travel with chefs, they eat healthy, there's more choices. People are more aware now than they were in the early 90s about, everything we're talking about, right? Even about talking about menopause and growing older, more conversations happening now than it was then. So I think life on the road as a rock star is very different than it was 35 years ago.
I've heard that it is, and have a friend who works in the music industry, and he said all the young, and by young I mean sort of late teens, early 20s, who come in, they drink water. They don't even drink coffee. Never mind the rock and roll heydays of the 90s where you would maybe drink something a little bit stronger. But it does sound like it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
So where did you go from there? What happened from touring?
I ended up coming back to LA, being in a band in LA, and then I was getting close to 30 and I hurt my back, and I was a waitress. I just ended up meeting this man from Iceland who had developed this system called rope yoga. Not like the traditional that you just imagine like on the wall, but it's this other system for back and hip and knees. And I just dropped in there for a couple of years, and then started working with clients and became a trainer, and then became like a nutritionist, and then did all my yoga stuff. So that phase from probably, 28 to 35. I mean, I'd already been practicing for a long time yoga, but it became my career around, late 20s, early 30s. And then it's just continued. Like my life has all been about the body, studying and, me being my best experiment,
Yes.
My best experimenter is me experimenting with me. And then what worked and didn't work, and just like sharing that. And then I had kids and ended up needing health insurance. So got a real corporate job. And I worked in a corporate setting with a big high pressure job. And it sort of was, I call it the second coming of my health decline, like the music zone, early 20s. That was a time of decadence. And then working in an office all day, every day, high stress, being a mom. That was like the second coming of like, I need to put more energy into my own well-being in order to even think about taking care of anybody else. And so that happened probably around 40. And then it took me a while, and I had the idea and left that corporate job and started my business Desk Yogi in 2014, 15. And that's an online wellness business for people that sit at desks all day.
That's such a great idea.
So that was like my first solo job. Yeah. And that was like in California, we had some pretty bad weather events where I live in like 2018. And so that was tough just, on the business. But then when COVID came here, that was interesting for Desk Yogi because we had been focused on people working at their desks and offices, and we had to pivot to people at home. Then that was just around the time that I personally started to really feel the impact of menopause, right around probably a little bit later than a lot of women, because I was 50 in 2018. I don't think that I felt a lot of the symptoms till I was about 51 or 52, which is later than a lot of my friends.
Right.
But I also menstruated later than a lot of my friends. So it's genetic. It can be very genetic about when your period starts and when. That's why it's nice to know your mom's story about menopause, because it can have some similarities. And so I started to drop into that world. And here we are today with talking about the protein powder and just the whole menopause experience. I've been using the word journey, but it's really just an experience.
It certainly is an experience. Yeah. And with all its highs and lows that come along with it. But I love your expression, dropping into that world, because I feel that that's kind of really what I've done as well. Do you know your mum's story of menstruation and menopause?
No. For two reasons. One, I was adopted. I do know my biological mom. I feel like the generation, and, of course, I'm making a generalization. We know it's not true for everyone. But I feel like our generation of people that were in high school in like the early 80s are the first generation to really talk about menopause.
Yes.
And share our stories with our daughters.
Yes.
We might have been the first generation where our mothers maybe talked to us about getting their period. My mom was a little older, so she didn't talk to me about it. But some of my friends said, oh yeah, our moms talked to us about it. I was like, really? Well, I think that was sort of like when that started to happen. So it would be natural for our generation to be really interested.
Like you, our household didn't have conversations about periods and menstruation or menopause. I have a younger sister. She's 7 years younger than me. And so we talk to each other about it now. And I've also got daughters. They know more than I ever knew at either of their ages now, which I think is really positive. So our generation sharing the knowledge and opening up the discussion.
Yeah.
You say that your symptoms, or you noticed symptoms at 51. How was it?
I think the first thing I really started to notice was sleep disturbances. And that's something that I've been really trying to talk about a little more. I don't know, like, for me, I had kids a little later. So 35 to 40 is when I had kids. I think it's more now women having kids in their 30s than when it was women having kids in their 20s. And so my kids, I nursed my kids, I raised my kids. And so there's sleeplessness involved in that process.
Yes.
And so I think it was like a decade of sleep deprivation that should have been going away because my kids were older, sleeping through the night. They weren't nursing, it was like elementary school and junior high. I should have been sleeping through the night. And so that was the first sign, is just waking up at 3 a.m. Bing, and I think that then that exasperates other symptoms.
Yeah.
And I think my lack of sleep was definitely menopause related. I really had to get a program around sleep, and I'm pretty successful now, and I kind of know what I'm up to. This whole process is really about just being curious about what's happening, as opposed to frustrated.
Yes.
Like, oh wow, that's a new hair on my chin that's never grown before. Like, what is the deal with the hair? I've never spent more time with tweezers and toothpicks in my life than I have in the last 5 years. God.
Yeah, fun. I like that though, the curiosity rather than the frustration, and trying to solve it as not a problem, but as a challenge. It's right, what can I do to make this better? So what solutions have you come up with, or what happened after the sleep disruptions, and what have you worked on that has been successful?
Well, I found that starting with what you want your morning to be like is what worked for me, rather than getting frustrated about what's happening at night. I want to, wake up feeling refreshed. And like, what does that feeling feel like? And what happens in the morning on a refreshed morning? And it's sort of like that saying in Alcoholics Anonymous, fake it till you make it. That's in other words too, but it's like, I wake up tired and like, all right, let's do this day. And so I started with attitude first. And I felt like if I wasn't grouchy all day and I wasn't like walking around telling the story, like, I'm not sleeping, I'm so tired, creating this whole, also like I call it like a sub personality. That's the non-sleeping me. So starting with attitude first, and then, the basics, like, what am I doing? Drinking coffee, like an iced coffee for lunch, or like a green tea if I can't sleep. Like, that's a no-brainer. And I love coffee. I drink a coffee every morning. I'm not one of those like no caffeine, but it's like looking at that, it's a stimulant. So anything for me after 11 o'clock in the morning is going to keep me up.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Noticing that about yourself, again, coming back to the curiosity. What are you doing? Right? Are you eating dinner at 8:30, 9 o'clock? Depending on your bedtime, that's really tough. Have you labeled yourself? Are you a night person or a morning person? Are you taking that into consideration? That's an important element. And then, of course, there's supplements that can help with sleep. You need to, of course, talk to your doctor. Just say that first. I'm not a doctor, but for me, for my body, having magnesium before sleep really helped me. It did not work for me to do, what is that supplement that everyone takes? Melatonin did not work for me.
Same.
It made me too groggy in the morning, and then it was a perpetual cycle. But magnesium worked for me. So again, curiosity. Melatonin works great for my son. It works great for my daughter. Does not work for me. A little experimentation goes a long way.
It is so interesting. Yes, no, it really does. Because melatonin does nothing for me. It doesn't help with sleep. If anything, it makes me more anxious. I don't feel groggy in the morning. I feel nothing. It's a complete waste of time for me. Magnesium, and I always get the pronunciation wrong, but bisglycinate or biglycinate, that one helps me sleep, definitely. And same with my daughter, melatonin, and she has ADHD, the oldest one. Nothing, doesn't help at all. And she's tried it for years. So experimenting and finding what works, giving it a period of time. And then either you ditch it or you keep it and then change if you need to. Yeah, absolutely. The best way to go. Is there anything in particular at the moment that you're wrestling with or that you feel you're on top of?
I have two things to answer. One, I want to just mention that, and it's a very unpopular opinion, alcohol is terrible for sleep.
Yeah, it is unpopular. It is true.
If you're not sleeping and you're drinking, you might want to look at that. I have no judgment. I drink, I'm not like drunk every night, but, I found that having even one glass of red wine, I used to be able to drink a half a bottle of red wine with girlfriends on an evening and really enjoy it and sleep. And then it's changed.
Same.
And, that's what we'll find. We'll find that what we're doing is working, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. So drinking and sleeping are not good friends, especially for women. And the quality of your sleep, if you sleep after drinking, is not as good. There's numerous studies about this. I'm not saying anything that's controversial. It's just that people want to drink. That's what's controversial. And they want it to be different than it is.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be. If you're interested in sleeping, you can't. I'd rather you have a drink at lunch and let your system deal with it than have a drink at night before bed.
And there are studies to prove that as well, that not to encourage day drinking, but if you wish, I know it's such a shame because it sounds like it would be so much fun, but it's not something I can do at the moment either.
And if you are going to drink, have a tequila on ice rather than a margarita, because the sugar is what keeps you up. It spikes your cortisol in the middle of the night, and that's what keeps you up. It's the sugar and the alcohol. So I'm not saying you should drink tequila
at lunchtime. Yeah.
Just at lunch. If I'm out with a great podcast where Jacqui from XO Jacqui told us to drink tequila at lunch, the marketing team will be thrilled with me. And then you asked me and I want to go back to your question. I'm sorry. I just wanted to really touch on the alcohol piece. The biggest problem that I'm dealing with right now is constipation.
Right.
That's an issue for a lot of women in menopause. And so that's been an issue most of my life, and then exacerbated by menopause. And how I deal with it is increasing fiber, increasing water, and then, of course, magnesium threonate before bed seems to do it for me. And if I'm, really challenged, I'll take like a very mild, here in the US, there's a tea called Smooth Move.
Yes.
It's a natural tea, and I'll do like a light dusting of that. Like I'll just leave it in the hot water for like a minute. But that's a major issue for a lot of women. I feel like a lot of health doctors don't really even know really what constipation is, like what defines what constipation means. But from the research that I've done and the books that I've read, if you don't have a bowel movement every day, you're constipated.
I've listened to and read a lot of Sarah Gottfried, and I believe that's how she defines it as well. And the number of women, particularly in midlife, who struggle with that is phenomenal. But it's yet another thing that we don't talk about enough, because eliminating all the toxins and the hormones that we don't need is so important for our health and well-being. So keeping bowel movements going is incredibly important, but digestive issues they're certainly up there on the top 10 of the menopausal symptoms.
Yeah, that's what I'm into right now. It's like figuring out how to poop every day is an important piece,
It is. It really is. I would love to know a lot more about XO Jacqui. I've looked at the website. I love it. I've obviously spoken to the lovely Michelle. First of all, how did you meet your business partner, Alexis Davis?
Oh, Alexis, I live in Ojai, which just for reference, there's about 8 to 9,000 people in the city of Ojai. And then the valley I live in has about 40,000 people. I live in a very small town, and we're about 80 to 100 miles north of Los Angeles. So we're in between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles and about 30 minutes from the ocean.
Wow.
So that's where I live. And just to give you context, so it's a small town. Alexis and I had our kids at the same school. And then we also discovered that we played tennis. So we met as friends first, and then she would come to my yoga studio. I have a yoga studio here in town called Move Sanctuary. That's just a beautiful thing to be doing. And she would come to my class, and she owns a baking company called Sun Oven Gluten and Vegan Baking Company. And she started that business in her home when her kids were little because her oldest son had so many food allergies. And so she started her own business. I had Desk Yogi and I had the yoga studio. And I'm I would say about 8 years older than Alexis. So she hasn't really gone through that. I think, maybe just at the beginning of menopause. Who knows? I don't want to diagnose her today. Let her know. Hey, Alexis, I think you are in menopause. It's not very nice. But I had the idea for the protein powder because I couldn't find anything that was working for me. Pea protein makes me super farty and bloaty. Whey protein, same. And that also hurts my stomach. And I know like almond flour and like all these different kinds of protein. And so I was just playing around and I was like, brown rice really works for me. But then I couldn't find a brown rice protein powder that didn't have stevia, and stevia spikes my blood sugar. So basically I couldn't find anything. And so being a serial entrepreneur, I was like, well, screw it. I'll just make my own. And so I started to, I spent almost 3 months. I had a formula. I knew what I needed help with it, but I knew what I wanted to do. And I couldn't find anybody to do it with me. And I was driving down the street one day and I looked over at where her commercial kitchen is and where she sells her amazing donuts, and her gluten-free matcha donut is incredible. And I was like, oh my God, Alexis will do it with me. She'll do this company with me.
How brilliant.
And it wasn't even like, I'll ask her. It's like, oh, she's going to do it. So I called her and I said, do you want to do this thing? And she just didn't even hesitate. She was like, yes. So that's how it started. It was like driving down the street in my little small town. I know it's a long-winded way to answer your question, but that's a lot of times how things start, right? You have the thought and then you don't stop until it's done.
There are beautiful photographs on your website of a group of women in your kitchen, or presumably Alexis's professional kitchen, cooking or tasting or being together. Is that what really happens? And you have a group of women. How did you come up with your recipe? Did you know? Sorry, I'm now throwing loads of questions at you. Did you know your recipe, or did you all create it together?
Well, what we did was we had Alexis and we did the first initial giant round of tons and tons of tastings and testings, and also just not even tasting, but having a smoothie and then seeing the impact over a little bit of time. Am I feeling bloated? How's my energy? How's my sleep? How are my hot flashes? Or how am I pooping? We found that for me, Alexis is gluten-free and vegan. I am not. I eat meat and dairy. So we had a different sample just from the two of us. And then we took our top contenders, and our first flavor was the berry pomegranate. We did the vanilla and the cacao later. And then we called my friend Lisa, who's a chef, and our designer and our project manager, people that were part of the company already. And then just a variety of women that we knew in town, women that are coming into menopause, women that are older or completely done with menopause. And we did, all those photos were taken from when we did our tasting. We took all their feedback. They were like, this is so professional. They had to fill out a sheet and notes and then let us know later. And we came up with the formula, and that's how we did it. We're like, all right, small town, sampling of beautiful women that we took their opinions to heart. And we are really happy with the formula. And yeah, so that did really happen.
It is just a thing of beauty, and the idea of a women-run business for women is always wonderful and very welcome, certainly here on the show. Talk us through your ingredients, because every single one of them has a kind of magic superpower for menopause, which is obviously the thought behind it, even down to the monk fruit as sweetener, which is super rare and a stroke of genius. How did you come up with it, and what do they all do?
I'll focus right now on just the berry pomegranate, which in my mind is the original flavor. We have 3 flavors, but the berry pomegranate, I find that pomegranates are a beautiful symbol of femininity. I mean, if you've opened up a pomegranate, it's just like gorgeous. And so is the vagina. And so, there's been many comparisons, with the pomegranate and fertility and women's health, reproductive health. I think the pomegranate is a beautiful symbol of that. But not only is it a symbol of that, but it's also very healthy for women to drink and take part in, have pomegranates part of their lives. And also, I find that monk fruit was key for me. I really, 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 really do not do well with any kind of sweeteners. And so that's why monk fruit is in all 3 flavors. Sorry, going back to pomegranate, it's got a lot of natural compounds that really help with the immune system and plant-based estrogens. And we really wanted to have something simple. And then if you want more, you can add more on top. Does that make sense? Like you want to have your foundational protein shake not overwhelm your system. And so that's why 6 ingredients. That's why they're all organic and locally sourced. So you've got, berry, pomegranate, you've got your monk fruit. So for me, and the brown rice powder, for me, those are the staples that you don't want to mess with. So your pomegranate helps with the hot flashes, the fatigue, and the joint stiffness. And then you have blueberry in there, first of all, for flavor, but blueberry is great for bone loss and the immune system because of the polyphenols, which I'll pronounce wrong, and the flavonoids that are in blueberry. And then we added beetroot also for flavor, but beets are incredible for inflammation and circulation problems. And we all know that heart health is very important for women. Just like we could do 17 podcasts on heart health for women, that being something that we, again, really don't talk about very much for women's health. I talked about the brown rice. It's really good for rapid muscle recovery. It doesn't bloat you out, and it helps with the metabolism, keeping everything moving through the body, which we've also been talking about. And chasteberry is an adaptogen. It's an estrogen balancing impact. It helps with hot flashes and night sweats. It's been shown to also help with insomnia. So those are the ingredients. And I don't know if you knew this about monk fruit, but monk fruit really helps with blood sugar levels being stable. And that is like that crash. I mean, I don't know if you felt that crash before, but I really work hard to not have that crash happen to me, where you're like so starving. You're like, oh my God, I'm so starving.
Oh, definitely. The hangry.
Yeah, the hangries. And, my go-to smoothie, and I drink this every day, is the blueberry pomegranate with a little bit of almond milk and a banana. I watch tennis all the time. And you've got these tennis players, the champions of the world on the men and women's side, but I'll talk about women's tennis. They probably have unlimited funds, the top tennis players in the world. And guess what they eat? They drink water and they eat a banana. Some of them will do like a goop if it's super hot and the conditions are crazy, but the banana is the go-to stabilizer of their blood sugar, potassium for muscle cramps. I mean, so you put a banana in with the berry palm and you're good, in my opinion.
And sounds delicious. No, certainly after training, because I know you also love going to the gym and lifting weights as well. So you're speaking my language. It makes me very happy. Every time I meet someone on the podcast who enjoys lifting, I'm like, yes, this is good news. It's ideal for after training. As part of that lifestyle, I find that the mindset goes hand in hand with nutrition and certainly fueling for recovery. So you can lift again the next day or couple of days later, muscles recover. So taking in enough protein kind of just becomes part of your day and you don't even think about it and it's every single meal. But this is another aspect of midlife, and certainly in Europe, we have a tendency, or I will say for England particularly, we have a tendency to start our day with carbohydrates, and protein doesn't get so much of a look in except perhaps at the weekends. So educating midlife women about the importance of adequate protein intake right from the very beginning of the day to stabilize your blood sugar and keep your energy going and prevent any muscle loss is something that we continue to work on. How do you encourage? Obviously, you have the protein powder, which will help, and its beautiful ingredients, because taking in processed stuff, not ideal. How do you encourage the women around you to up, because it doesn't usually need increasing their protein intake?
It's a tough one. What's coming up for me to say is that the craze of intermittent fasting, which can work initially, like it can really work initially if you put on weight and you're, midlife and you're like hit the intermittent fasting craze and like you're having your first meal at noon. It might feel really good at first, but I would argue that you're losing weight because you're eating less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of times you're not hungry in the morning because of the cortisol. Your stress is so high. And so you lose your appetite. I've found that having protein in the morning really helps with blood sugar and then helps with cravings. A lot of women that I talk to start with intermittent fasting and then find they're snacking all night and they can't figure out why they're waking up tired and bloated and cranky. Eating most of your meals and finishing your eating for the night around 7 o'clock is probably, in my opinion, the smartest thing to do. A lot of time before bed, then you wake up hungry naturally, and that's the natural time to have protein. Again, if we go back to that lens of curiosity, I always encourage the women that I work with or that ask me. I had a meeting last night with a woman who was asking me about two things: heavy lifting and eating. Right? She's jumping into menopause right now. Experiment. Wake up in the morning and have a carb-laden breakfast. Track how you feel for 48 hours. And then experiment with a few mornings of trying a hard-boiled egg and a salad, or try a protein shake. I'm not saying XO Jacqui, but try something, but be aware of how much sugar you're putting in your protein shake as well. And keeping your shake simple too, right? Because you can complicate those smoothies pretty quickly with a scoop of, you can go crazy with those things. But, experiment. And you'll find, I think, through experimentation that having protein in the morning is going to really keep your energy burn. I just say like your energy burn clear through the day. And then a little protein for lunch, and then a protein snack in the afternoon. I do have people that tell me that they drink the cacao wild yam in the afternoon and it helps with sugar cravings and it helps them not overeat at dinner. Like if they know they're going out to a dinner or an event, they'll do like a protein shake around 3 in the afternoon to help them manage the rest of their eating plan for the night.
That's such a sensible way of doing it, because you have something to take the edge off the hunger. It doesn't spike your blood sugar, and it is satisfying. It will certainly tide you over to dinner. I often do that myself. And
if you're walking around your kitchen at 11 o'clock at night hungry, what did you do during the day? Look back. But, protein's delicious.
Yes, I know. I look forward to my afternoon protein shake because it feels like a treat if it is sweet. But yeah, the monk fruit, I'm still blown away by that. I think it's such a good idea, because we get so much stevia and sucralose over here. Haven't seen monk fruit used. So yeah, and the wild yam use obviously is brilliant as well because of its estrogenic effects. And the cacao, every single ingredient in all your flavors, I just ticked a box. So it was a joy to discover. To begin to round off then, Jacqui, what do you enjoy in life most? What brings you pleasure?
My daughter turned 20 at the beginning of April, and I had knee surgery in January. So I've really been suffering around recovering from my knee surgery. What brought me pleasure was flying to Portland to visit her and take her to dinner for her 20th birthday. I was just there for 24 hours.
Oh,
But the underneath that trip, like getting on a plane, going to see her, having dinner, coming back, was a baseline foundation of health, physical health and emotional health and mental health. So I'm dealing with a major injury. So part of taking care of your health is, and for this case, which would be not normally what I would do, is calling my airline and making sure that there was a wheelchair for me when I got off the plane. So that's an example of how do I take care of myself given the conditions that are happening in the moment, which is, I hope, something that we can all learn as we go through this journey of menopause is a key ingredient to your well-being. How do I take care of myself given the conditions with what I want to be doing? So if you want to be running with your grandkids in the park and pushing them on the swing and helping your kids raise their kids, or if you want to be traveling, or if you want to be lifting, as Dr. Peta Attia says, if you want to be able to lift your suitcase into the overhead compartment on the airplane, are you lifting weights? Are you walking? Are you fueling your body with protein? Because all those three things will help you be able to interact with your loved ones and your world in a more balanced way. And that's really what motivates me. I want to be able to travel to see my daughter and, yes, take care of myself because I have a hurt leg, so have the wheelchair, but also have, the energy to go do it. You know that from my son has ADHD and a variety of other things, and that takes a lot of energy. So what in your life, I would say anyone listening, like identify what in your life is the most important to you. Maybe for me, what I'm saying is showing up for my kids. And how do I show up for them? Well, I need to be able to get to them in a joyful way. And I also need to be present when I'm with them. That requires energy and foundational strength. And those two things come from, in my opinion, lifting weights and eating well, sleeping, and taking care of your emotional health.
That's all really beautiful and deeply, deeply true. Really valuable information. And I think would speak to the heart of most any people. Who do you want to spend your time with and how are you going to spend it? In finishing up then, what next for XO Jacqui and where can people find you?
We are thrilled to be launching a new line of products that are going to enhance or add a little customization to the foundational protein products. So as you see, like we've got these 3 foundational protein products that are very simple. But as we know, every woman has a different challenge happening at different times. So we're creating, I'm calling it power to the pause.
Lovely.
Boosters. And so if you have, let's say you woke up bloated, you could add the bloat power to the pause to the protein powder. Or let's say you are constipated, you would add a booster to it. Or if were having hot flashes or muscle aches, so you would be able to add a booster to enhance and customize the experience for you. Again, each booster has just 3 ingredients that target the specific issue that you personally are dealing with. So if I was going to make a shake today with XO Jacqui, I would add the foundational protein. And for me, because I'm specifically not in this moment right now in this podcast, but in my menopause journey, dealing a lot with constipation, I would probably add, the power to the pause booster for constipation, which is really just called poop, which is what we're going to name it.
Brilliant.
And you might be struggling with your libido, and we're going to have a booster for libido called Sizzle. And you can just add that, it has ginger in it, it has passion fruit, and it just kind of like get your motor running in that way, because that's another issue. And, vaginal dryness is going to be dealt with that booster. So that's something that's coming out in the near future for XO Jacqui. And we launched our mini bags, which is a variety pack of each flavor, but just 5 servings. So if you wanted to get a variety pack to see which flavor you like the best, then we have that. And it's available on Amazon. I don't know if you know this, Hattie, but shipping in the US is
it's extortionate.
Small business can't survive. And so when you go to our site, you can go to Amazon and buy it. If you have Amazon Prime, there's no shipping, or you can buy it on our site. It's on Amazon now. I'm hoping that we can open up to the UK market in the next couple months. And I'll, of course, send you an email, Hattie, when that happens. But for the short term, for the guests maybe listening today, you can go on the XO Jacqui website and then click the button that will be there soon, probably by this time this gets published, to take you to Amazon for free shipping.
Fantastic. I will put that in the show notes as well so that everybody is aware and can taste XO Jacqui as soon as possible. That's exciting.
Thank you. It's just been so fun to meet you, and it's been really an inspiring conversation for me. Every time I have a conversation about menopause, I get all fired up, but not hot.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all your time. You can find Jacqui and Alexis at XO Jacqui, which is XOJACQUI.com, and on Instagram, XO Jacqui Products. You can also obviously find them on Amazon. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. I really appreciate it. It does make a difference. Drop me a line. Let me know what you're enjoying, what you'd like to change. It's always good to get feedback. So continuing on, we can give you what you would like more of. Thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Looking for a new career? Welcome to Do HVAC Training Service Center in North Charleston. Enroll today in our comprehensive HVAC training hands-on field experience-based program, covering troubleshooting, maintenance, installation, and more on various HVAC systems and ductwork. We offer EPA and NATE preparation and testing, along with various certifications. Enjoy payment options. Take advantage of their November specials. Achieve certification in under 5 months. Enroll now for your new journey of skill development and career advancement. Log on to DEWHVACTrainingSC.com to inquire.
Hello, Saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.